Take your CJ7 all the way to 11. Jeepin' with Cool Guy.
Key Parts Inc., from what I found, makes one of the best floor pan replacements for at least the CJs and maybe the YJs. The other one is Classic Enterprises, but I went with the Key Parts Inc. Part. Anyways, so when you replace your front floor pan, I replaced the whole thing. Their piece runs all the way up to the front lip, all the way up around the transmission wall, and then back through here, all the way out to here. When you're doing that, you want to make sure that you measure everything really well. The way that I installed this piece in particular is I actually cut it out all the way up to the lip, right where the firewall meets the floor pan. And then I cut the edge lip that would go outside of the floor pan off of my replacement piece, and then just welded it in here. As you can tell, I went a little crazy on my welds. I was practicing, I suppose. Anyways, and then once you get that out, the replacement piece really runs all the way up to here. But I chose to keep as much metal as I could, and then you just tack weld all the way around. Take your time, because this is only 18 gauge steel and it will warp if you go too fast. Because what you can do is you can tack weld it from here, let it cool, and then tack weld it from underneath, and then tack weld it from the top, so that when you sand it all down, you can actually get a really nice seam on both sides. It didn't work out that way for me because I was learning as I went, but what I'm just going to put a little bit of Bondo over the top of this thing and smooth this out. But I've got a really good seam going on, so I'm happy with it. Okay, so here we are lying on the ground looking at the driver's side front support. This kind of L-shaped bracket block has a body mount right there. And this lower edge right there goes up and connects to the bottom part of your floor pan, and that's where all of your spot welds are. So you're going to want to drill those out so that you can get this piece, or you can get the floor pan off of this. Also to take note of is back where you see right back here, the factory put 2 to 3 spot welds through this into the floor pan. Those will also have to be cut out and ground in. I just tack welded the thing in there a couple different times to get the same kind of support. So you can kind of see now how the floor pan looks after it has been installed underneath the body. Now, in continuation of the front floor pan, I also replaced the rear floor pan. So really I tried to keep as much original metal as I could, so I went all the way up to the point where it was rusted out, but I had cracks and rust all over the place. So I ran pretty much a cut line right here, down here, because what I wanted to do was try and avoid as many edge bend overlaps as I could as possible with my replacement piece, just in case it didn't match up exactly. But it matched up pretty well. Once you get this all sanded down and sandblasted and then painted over, it's going to look really good. But I ran right over to here because this is where your inner floor support is, and I didn't want to have to cut through the inner floor support to get to that piece. And this metal was also pretty good. But the real catch to this rear floor piece is this outer support arm that runs right underneath here. This is also a piece that Classic Enterprises makes, and they do a really nice job of it. And it comes with the holes pre-threaded for your seat mount, and then also for the roll bar. So when you cut this out, there's like 20 spot welds all over the place that connect this to the floor pan. So you have to cut out every one of those spot welds. So this outer support arm, I'm actually showing you the other side of the Jeep from what you just seen. So this is the passenger side, is that gray bar that runs all the way across the floor pan. So unless you have a spot welder, you just have to tack it back in. But as you can see, there's the bolt or the nut for your roll bar connection, and there's actually a body mount right back there at the base part of that. So this is kind of a crucial piece that you may have to replace. These things, from what I can tell, rust out a fair amount, especially in the back end of it. But my point is that when you are going to take this thing out, make sure that you mark all the way up at the front where it is welded into the cross member, the front cross member support arm, and then also make sure you measure as close as you possibly can to where that thing extends from the floor pan, the outer wall, and from the front support member, because those are the measurements that you're going to want to use when you tack weld this thing back in. Because if you don't get it right, then you won't be able to put your roll bar in. That body mount right there won't connect very well. So you want to be as specific as you can with it. Just make sure you take down as many measurements as you can. Depending on what pieces you get, I actually bought all 4 floor panel pieces separate as their own entity because I wanted to be able to custom, or not custom, but be adjustable as much as I can. You can get this whole floor pan as one piece, or you can get the whole thing as one piece, but I wanted to try and keep as much metal as I could. But what I'm trying to get at is that the front floor pan and the back floor pan meet right here. So the front floor pan has this lip that comes up and bends over, and when you install the front and the back, or vice versa, this is where your seam is going to be. Now this seam right here is exactly where that cross member support piece that goes all the way across here. It runs underneath here. There's a seat bolt or a seat nut that's part of it, and then it comes down into here. And there's like 10 different tack welds that go across here that also hold the floor pan to that cross member and this outer support piece. So just be aware of that you'll have to grind all those things out. But outside of that and your outer support piece, there's not a lot of spot welds in this area. There's the inner support arm that runs right here, and there's also a bunch of spot welds specifically on this area right here, right below where the seat's inner side sits, close to where the seat belt gets mounted in. Kind of a pain in the butt, but just spot welds. I would recommend getting yourself a spot weld cutter. So this is a spot weld cutter. It's basically a bit that has these extra heads, sleeve heads, these tooth heads that screw down on top of this thing. And then this has a kind of like a pilot point that's spring-loaded. Ow. So see how it kind of goes into there. And then as you press down, this cuts out around the spot weld. What you want to do is use a centering punch. That's what I'm trying to think of, centering punch. You use a centering punch and tack it a good 2-3 times, because you want a nice big hole for this thing to sit and rotate in. Otherwise these things spin out really super easy, and then you wind up getting scratches all over the place. But this does a really good job of totally drilling out spot welds, and then it gives you a great hole to plug weld back into. Gives you a really nice connection spot. So I would recommend buying one of these. You can get them with multiple heads. I think Harbor Freight carries them. I got mine off of Amazon, KCC Industries, and I've gone through probably 60, maybe 70 different spot welds, and I've only gone through 2 of these heads. So I've still got 1 in spare, and it comes with 3. So highly recommend it. It'll save your day.